Did you know that during the Peloponnesian War, disease killed nearly half the population of Athens, one of the most famous cities in ancient Greece? The war wasn't just about battles. It was a catastrophe that devastated everyone, from generals to farmers. Athens and Sparta, two superpowers with clashing ways of life, fought a brutal struggle that changed Greece forever. The first phase alone dragged on for 10 years, bringing relentless uncertainty and loss. Homes were burned, food supplies cut off, and families torn apart. Beneath the glory of ancient Greece lay mud, blood, and immense human suffering. This is the story of ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances, forced to endure unimaginable hardship. Understanding this war reveals the true cost of conflict and the resilience of those who lived through it. To understand the war, you need to know Athens and Sparta, two city-states that couldn't have been more different. Athens was a vibrant democracy, famous for art, philosophy, and a powerful navy. Its citizens debated laws, built the Parthenon, and thrived on trade and new ideas. Sparta, in contrast, was a strict military society ruled by kings and elders. Spartan boys trained as soldiers from age 7, enduring harsh discipline to become elite hoplites. Athens led the Delian League, turning allies into subjects and building an empire through naval dominance. Sparta led the Peloponnesian League, valuing tradition and military strength and fearing Athens' growing power. The two alliances, one sea-based and democratic, the other land-based and oligarchic, became locked in a rivalry. Tension simmered for years, as each side saw the other as a threat to their way of life. Eventually, these differences exploded into open war. The conflict wasn't just about territory, it was a clash of cultures and ideologies. The fate of Greece would be decided by which vision prevailed, and for decades, neither side would back down. What finally pushed Athens and Sparta into war? It wasn't a single event, but a series of escalating crises. Disputes over smaller cities like Corcyra and Potidaea drew both powers into direct confrontation. Athens formed new alliances, angering Sparta and its friends. When Athens imposed a trade ban on Megara, a Spartan ally, it crippled their economy and inflamed tensions. Sparta and its allies saw this as outright aggression. Demands for Athens to lift the ban were refused by Pericles, Athens' leader. The fragile peace collapsed. Both sides believed they had no choice but to fight. The Greek world was plunged into war, not by a single spark, but by a chain reaction of fear, pride, and rivalry. Smaller city-states were forced to pick sides, fueling instability. The stage was set for a conflict that would engulf all of Greece. War was now inevitable. The war began in 431 BC, but neither Athens nor Sparta could deliver a knockout blow. Athens hid behind its massive walls, relying on its navy for supplies and raids. Sparta's army ravaged the countryside, burning farms and villages, but couldn't breach Athens' defenses. Each summer Spartans invaded, Athenians sheltered inside, watching their land destroyed. The pattern repeated for years, a war of attrition, not decisive battles. The Athenian navy struck back along the coast, but neither side could force surrender. Small cities suffered most, caught between the two giants and often brutally punished. The siege of Plataea ended with the execution of its defenders, a grim example of the war's cruelty. The conflict became a test of endurance and suffering. Soldiers and civilians alike faced hunger, fear, and loss. The war dragged on, with no end in sight. The Greek world was locked in a deadly stalemate. The cost was mounting for everyone. For soldiers, the Peloponnesian War was relentless misery. Hoplites marched in heavy armor under the blazing sun, facing brutal close-quarters combat in the phalanx. Battles were chaotic and deadly. One misstep could mean being trampled by your own side. Naval warfare was no better. Athenian rowers, packed into triremes, endured exhausting labor and the constant threat of drowning. Most rowers were poor citizens, risking everything for Athens' power. Food was scarce, sleep was rough, and disease spread quickly in crowded camps. Soldiers faced heat, cold, and constant danger, while their families struggled back home. The historian Thucydides described the horror groans of the wounded, the clash of bronze, and the terror of battle. For 10 years, men endured this cycle of marching, fighting, and survival. The war was not just fought on the battlefield. It was a daily struggle against exhaustion and fear. Every campaign left scars, both physical and emotional. The true cost of war was paid by those who had the least choice in fighting it. Survival was never guaranteed. Just a year into the war, Athens faced a disaster worse than any Spartan attack, a deadly plague. Overcrowding inside the city walls created perfect conditions for disease. In 430 BC, a mysterious illness swept through Athens, killing thousands in weeks. Thucydides, who survived the plague, described fever, agony, and death on a massive scale. Social order collapsed, doctors died, families abandoned the sick, and bodies piled up in the streets. Traditional funeral rites were forgotten as panic spread. The plague killed a quarter to a third of Athens' population, including its leader, Pericles. With Pericles gone, Athens lost its steady hand, and morale plummeted. The city was left weakened, its military and spirit shattered. The plague did more damage than any enemy army. Athens would never fully recover from this blow. The war continued, but the city was forever changed. Disease had become the deadliest weapon. While soldiers fought, civilians endured relentless hardship. Athenian farmers lost homes and livelihoods as Spartans burned the countryside. Refugees crowded into Athens, living in squalor and fear of disease. Women bore the burden of holding families together, waiting for news from the front. In Sparta, the absence of soldiers strained society and heightened fear of revolt by the enslaved Helots. Both sides faced anxiety, loss, and the constant threat of violence. Even art reflected the frustration. Comedies like Lysistrata showed women desperate for peace. Ordinary people longed for normalcy, but leaders kept the war going. The suffering was universal, and hope for peace seemed distant. After 10 years, exhaustion forced Athens and Sparta to agree to the Peace of Nicias. The truce brought hope, but it was shaky from the start. Many allies refused to accept it. Mistrust lingered, and smaller conflicts continued to flare. Then Athens made a disastrous gamble, the Sicilian expedition. Led by Alcibiades, Athens sent a massive force to conquer Syracuse, hoping for glory and wealth. The campaign ended in catastrophe. Athens' army and navy were destroyed, thousands killed or captured. The defeat shattered Athens' power and morale. Sensing weakness, Sparta renewed the war. The final phase was even more brutal, as Athens struggled to recover. The dream of victory was gone. Now it was a fight for survival. The war's end was approaching, but the suffering was far from over. The cost of ambition was devastating. The defeat in Sicily crippled Athens, but the city fought on for nearly a decade. Sparta, now backed by Persian gold, built a navy and cut off Athens' grain supply. In 405 BC, the Spartan fleet destroyed Athens' navy at Aegospotami. Starving and surrounded, Athens surrendered in 404 BC. The terms were harsh walls torn down, democracy replaced by a Spartan-backed oligarchy. The war left Greece shattered. Cities ruined, economies broken, and a generation lost. Sparta's victory was short-lived. Endless infighting left Greece weak and divided. This paved the way for Macedon and Alexander the Great to conquer Greece. The Peloponnesian War is a timeless warning about the true cost of rivalry and ambition. To discover more hidden stories from history, subscribe for more.